Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. I think I did 2 articles today. I've been cranking out content because this is obviously a really key time with a ton going on for Destiny. I wanted to circle back to a debate that has been happening in the community lately, something I touched on in my video yesterday. Got a few thumbs down on that one based on my opinions about the exotic mission. Namely that I think it is fine to do that, have a mandated 2-man mission with comms, but I do want to talk about kind of the ramifications of that and what I believe should be some sort of buff to farming the exotic class items. So I will reiterate my position that I definitely believe that Bungie should be allowed to kind of experiment with different types of missions like this. This is one of the most creative, best exotic missions I think we've had in the game. It is extremely fun. It's very fun to run with a buddy. The end is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in the game. If they did something that could just purely be done solo, like many of the other exotic missions, it could have been good, but like the whole point of this was to do this kind of 2-man concept that they've never done before. And I like seeing them do things they've never done before. So I do think that it is okay sometimes to do something with mandated comms. I mean, obviously we had this for raids already, but the problem becomes that this is for something that needs to be inherently farmable. This is not a raid where you are just going essentially to try and get that exotic drop or get red borders or whatever from the raid. This is something that we've never really seen before, even among legendary items. Like the amount of combinations you can get for the different perks and the exotic class items from the running list is, I think it's something like 60 total. So if you have really bad luck, finding the exact one you want is going to be sort of a nightmare. And obviously you're going to get duplicates before then. And I think the issue here is that the class items were sold as sort of this essential part of not just the expansion, but Prismatic. Like these are the first exotic class items in Destiny 2 history, much more involved and important than the class items from Destiny 1, which were like faction things. Here, these are, depending on the combo, can be some of the strongest exotics in the game. And you can say, oh, well, that should be behind harder content. Maybe, but like, again, the sheer RNG here and the amount of farming you'd have to do is like kind of antithetical to everything that Bungie has been trying to do with farming. They have bad luck protection on exotics for raids. They have guaranteed for early clears. They have all of this stuff to mitigate, going too nuts for red border farming. There are, double perk drops and things you can't farm. And like, here, there are way more combinations because it's this incredibly long list of perks and you want certain ones combined. And there's really no mitigation here whatsoever. You have 2 options, and I would say neither of these options are terribly compelling. First is obviously completing the mission. That's great. I fully get why completing the mission gets you a guaranteed one. Now, there was a glitch to get 2 at once that I'm sure is going to be patched relatively soon. You can cheese it with a friend, but in general, you're going to have to do, a full run of this to get one of these. This, I think, is an issue, not necessarily because the mission is inherently, that difficult or it's so annoying. I know once you learn it, you can get the time down. I think my first run was like 45 minutes, and I got it down to like 35 minutes, and I know people are getting it, consistently to 25, 30. There's these people saying you can do it in 15, and it's like, okay, like unless you're like an E or Edge nutcase, like that's not something you're going to routinely farm that quickly. But the time I think is okay. It's just, well, I am okay with this idea that you need a second person on comms to complete this mission. Getting a second person on comms for every attempt you want to do this, to farm, that seems like a bit too much of an ask to me. Again, this is not a normal exotic mission where like at best you're farming for different catalysts or like a couple of random rolls on something. This is like many, many, many dozens of potential runs here, and every single one would require you to get someone on comms, which at that point, I think maybe that, mandate is a little much for something that needs to be farmed this much. There is, of course, an alternative to this, which is once you do this, like Bungie did sort of plan, a backup for this because I think they knew that people would kind of be upset if that was the only way you could farm it. The idea then is any chest in the Pale Heart can have a chance to drop an exotic class item. And it's been confirmed to me that this does have bad luck protection. And a normal world chest may give you a little bit of experience. Something like a tier 4 onslaught chest may give you, way more. The quote, so doing this like normal, which is, I would say, just running a bunch of onslaught and then getting chests like as you do that, be they, the chests from the end of it, the chests from the world, the locked chests you have to do a little mini game for, the world boss, mini world boss things that give you a chest. So far, in a couple days of doing this, I would say it's an average between like 45, 50 minutes and like 80 minutes, like 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes or so to get one drop of these. And the alternative to this is putting on a combo detector and then just racing around the zones and getting just the patrol chests. I've heard that's faster technically, like 30 to 40 minutes maybe, but like if Onslaught can get, not Onslaught, if Overthrow, did I say Onslaught before? If Overthrow can get boring after a while, and that has a lot of diverse options. There's 3 bosses for each thing. There's, I don't need like 5, 6, 7, 8 different types of activities you do in each stage of Overthrow. And they're all different across the different zones. If even that can get old pretty quickly, which it can if you're trying to farm this consistently, and it's just sort of, this exhausting hour of doing it, then farming, just doing nothing but zipping around your Sparrow, farming chests, like materials farming from Destiny 1, that gets old even quicker, even if it is technically faster. You can also get these from the co-op Pale Heart missions, but that is, again, something else that requires comms, so you might as well be running the other, normal exotic mission. So I don't really think there's a good setup here. Like, your 2 options are not very good. Either you have to have a permanent buddy or set of buddies that is always available to run this and always can be on comms, and you can always coordinate, that's a tiny, tiny fraction of the population that's going to have access to that. Even if you're someone who's like, yeah, I'm totally open to talking to someone on comms, like doing that every time, or like finding a friend or using LFG to talk to a straight, like I can understand why people don't want to do that as the sole means of farming. But then the drop rates are so poor from the world chests, or it's just so inescapably dull to farm that it's like that's not a good alternative either. Like as intense as the time mission maybe, this is the opposite of that. It's like so not intense, it's just very boring. And farming 60 of these using chests, that's what, 60 hours if you get really lucky and get a different one every single time, which you're not going to. I think there need to be more sources here. Maybe you guarantee 2 on a mission completion of the exotic mission instead of making it a glitch. Maybe you up the drop rate on the chests. Maybe I think you need other sources. You can make them drop from the raid. I mean, that doesn't solve the. I think they can drop from the raid actually, because technically those are chests in the Pale Heart. They can drop as world drops from bosses. I'm just trying to spitball here because I think something else is going to need to change. And like, I am already trying to find one specific drop you want for these. Like, I've been in favor of like, okay, maybe crafting is too easy and kind of eliminates the loot chase. But there's obviously another far end of that concept where RNG is so crazy to the point where like it's overwhelming and you don't even want to like go for it. Like trying to get an exact combo here and farm that specifically is going to burn people out very hard. And I am predicting there will be some level of changes to this, and I think there should be. Again, this is totally separate from the idea that you need to beat the mission once on each class in order to start spawning the class items. I'm okay with that aspect of it. I'm okay with Bungie designing a mission based around 2 people. I think it's an awesome mission. I would change nothing about that. But the fact that this is a completely new concept that is so key to cool prismatic builds, it's like almost everyone is going to want one of these, for 80% of prismatic builds. And this level of farming, we just haven't seen items that have this level of RNG attached to them. It's just, it doesn't happen. And like, I don't know, maybe there's crafting. Maybe you have like get 10, 15 red borders and do it that way. I don't know. Maybe that's, that's just something I came up with off the top of my head. But I do think there has to be some sort of intermediate ground here that is not, having a person on speed dial 24/7 to run the mission, speed run the mission, or farming chests in the most dull way possible forever. So we'll see. I think there probably will be enough complaining about this within a week or two for Bungie to kind of consider other options here. Again, change nothing about the mission itself except for maybe more rewards. People are like, just make a solo version. Can't make a solo version. If you played it, you understand why they can't make a solo version. It makes no sense. So that part may be something people don't like to hear, but I think many people may start to agree with me that actually farming these in the current methods are a bit exhausting. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to be on Fireteam chat later to talk with Destin and I think Travis about our reviews, our review scores, stuff like that. So tune into that. I will retweet that when it's up. But and a thank you to Abantis for my 2 runs so far of the mission, which were a lot of fun. He was very patient. And he taught me the whole thing, and even though I totally fucked up the first one many times, we still beat it, which was nice. Also, PSA that I just learned 2 seconds ago. The subjugators, all subjugators, if you do a matching damage type to them, to the kind that they are, either strand or stasis, it does bonus shield level, like a matching shield. It does bonus damage to that subjugator. So if you want to coordinate, get your strand heavy and your stasis heavy with your teammate, and you'll burn through those guys a lot faster. Thank you to whoever on Twitter I saw that from. I can't remember right now. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.